Alright, so this trippy and very flippy device is the Nokia 2660, and I really enjoyed my time switching to this throwback of a phone that really did take me back to the old days, and this is my experience. Alright, so my very first phone was the Motorola Razr V3, and ever since then, I've had an affinity for flip phones. There's just something about a good flip phone, from the retro looks to the satisfying flip action when hanging up a phone call, and this is what the Nokia 2660 attempts to do: create a modern take on an old school classic. So does it succeed? Well, to find out, I decided to give up my S24 Plus for a week, a modern flagship with all the bells and whistles, for a more modest approach to see whether this dumb phone really is the smart answer. Now, design-wise, it's not the sleekest or best looking flip phone out there. That title still goes to the OG Motorola Razr V3, but how many people can say that they rock a flip phone these days anyway? So it still gets a 10 when compared to the boring slabs of metal sandwiched between glass that modern smartphones have come to resemble. Now, it is just made up from plastic all around, so not the most premium feeling phone, but it isn't flimsy by any means. The build quality here is actually pretty solid. The buttons feel nice and tactile. You get your primary screen with a smaller secondary screen that displays basic notifications along with the time. Now, opening it up, you will find a nice large physical set of keys in this intuitive keypad with all the essential functions. You get your numbers, your letters, your keys for answering and hanging up calls, and a nice center key that allows for the navigation of the UI. A shortcut button as well for camera and messages. It's all here, and it works. The buttons feel solid to press. For your primary screen, you get a whopping 2.8-inch LCD screen. And I'll be honest here, I think the screen is probably the biggest letdown for this phone. It just doesn't get bright enough, and there is some off-axis color shift with zero anti-glare resistance at all. Now, out the back, you get a removable battery with a dual SIM setup and expandable storage up to 32 gigabytes. Now, out the side, you have a micro USB port and a 3.5mm headphone jack. Damn, it really has been a while since I've seen one of these. Alright, so throughout the week, I will say this from a design standpoint, this was a very fun phone to carry around compared to a modern smartphone. It weighs nothing. It feels tiny in comparison. The secondary screen is great for monitoring notifications without having to open up the phone itself. And then there is that moment where you flip it open and it just feels so cool. You definitely get a few looks when answering calls and having it up to your ear. Texting here is fun, but can be time consuming and is a skill I had to reignite. This phone honestly just made me call people more, and for no good reason. I would just call up mates and ask them how they were, and before they responded, snap the phone shut and go about my day. I felt pretty good about it. The call quality here is solid. Props to Nokia. Alright, so moving on to performance. For those interested in specs, the CPU is a Unisoc T107, whatever that means. It boasts a whopping 128 megabytes of internal storage with an eye-watering 48 gigs of RAM. Wait, I read that wrong. It's actually 48 megabytes of RAM. Now, you can expand the storage up to 32 gigs, although I'm not really sure what you'd even want to do with that much space on this phone. You'll definitely not be taking a bunch of photos or video, I can pretty much guarantee that much. Now, let's be real. With an OS that is less complex than what you'd find on a modern smartwatch, even with its measly specs, this phone is quick. Navigating the UI isn't slow by any means. You really can get around pretty quick. Now, there are preloaded games on here like Snake, Tetris, Arrowmaster, Airstrike, Doodle Jump, Crossy Road, and you even get the English Oxford Dictionary. You also get a flashlight, calculator, and stopwatch. Now, while you can't download any dedicated music app, you can, however, sideload media from a computer. Now, this was just too much work for me, so I decided to make do with the radio app instead. Now, the camera system here is, well, nostalgic, so to speak. The 0.3 megapixel single sensor definitely takes you back to the days where grainy pixelated images with little to no detail were the norm. But maybe this is actually a sign to pick up a dedicated digital camera and get into photography. Alright, so battery on the Nokia 2660 is truly unreal. I can get up to 4 days pretty consistently with moderate usage, consisting of calls, using the radio app, calculator, and even sometimes 4.5, which is magical considering we live in an age where cutting-edge smartphones push up to 2 days on a single charge. But again, this is also due to the fact that I'm not exactly running many demanding apps on this phone. Speaking of, while I don't really spend a lot of time on social media apps like Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, I do however spend a lot of time on YouTube. And it hasn't exactly been possible on the Nokia 2660. And looking back on my week with this phone, it honestly felt like one of the greatest features of this device. Because, well, as a Gen Z myself, and growing up with the internet, it was just really nice to be able to disconnect from it all. Whether it's doom scrolling, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, YouTube, whatever the case, it just felt so nice not having these distractions in my pocket for this week. And it was cool to have a little detox from it all for a while. I definitely got a whole lot more work done, so that was nice. And so my final take is this. I enjoyed this phone way more than I thought I was going to. It really did just take me back to simpler times, and it just nailed the fundamentals of being a good phone. And the key word here being a phone and not smartphone. And that key distinguishing factor here is honestly one of the main superpowers of the 2660. Because at a reasonable price of around 80 USD, I genuinely feel that this dumb phone is truly a smart choice for most. Whether you're looking to detox, get off the grid, or just go back to simpler times, I can highly recommend the Nokia 2660. Alright, so this has been my take on the Nokia 2660. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Comment down below what you think of the Nokia 2660 and whether or not it's going to be your next dumb phone. But for now, it looks like we're out of time, so I'll catch you guys and girls in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.